For this next video, let's log out and we're going to create the password reset flow. So I'm going to log out and I'm going to go to the login page, and below the login page, I also want another form that says forgot my password. So let's open up our login.pug. You'll notice that we're already using mixins here for our login form. So we can create another mixin for our forgot. I'll go to our mixins folder here. We'll make an underscore forgot.pug. There's going to be a mixin called forgot form. And from that, you're going to have a form with class of form. The action is going to be /account/forgot. And the method is going to be post. Then you simply just need an H2 tag that says, I forgot my password. You have a label for the email input. Good. Oh, make sure that this is indented one level deep because it is inside of our mixin. Then go back to our login.pug file, and we'll include both the login form and the forgot one, and then we called it our forgot form. So we'll use it again, plus forgot form. Good. Refresh. There we go. I forgot my password. I got an email address, and then we reset it. So that's the easy part. Now comes I think a relatively complex part, which is like when somebody forgets their password, how do you securely do it? So it's going to be a multi-step process of when somebody submits this form. What we're going to do is we're going to first check if that person has an email address on file. And if they do have an email address on file, we are going to set a token in their user being like, this is the password reset token, as well as an expires date, which means that the person requested that their password be reset, and they can only do that within an hour, just for security's sake. Then those two pieces of information are going to be emailed to them. They can click on the link and then come back to our website. And if they have a proper token and a date that is not expired, then they will be able to go ahead and reset their password. So there's a lot going on here. We're going to need to check if the people are there. We need to set tokens. We need to save the user. We need to send out emails. So we're going to step this piece by piece and really just absolutely nail this password reset flow. And my hope with this is that you'll be able to keep this password reset flow and then move it into any apps that you're doing with Express and Passport. So let's get started. We'll open up our index.js to begin, and we'll also open up our auth controller. In our auth controller, we are first going to make our forgot. So when somebody submits this reset form, it's going to go to our forgot authentication method. So we'll say exports.forgot is equal to async request and response. Now, inside of here, there's really 4 different things that need to happen. First, what we need to do is see if that user exists. So see, because somebody might think that they have used their email, but they either don't have an account or they've used another email. So that's the first thing we need to check. If there actually is a user, we need to set reset tokens and expiry on their account. So what's going to happen is that if they do, we're going to say user.reset password token equals, you don't have to type this, I'm just explaining. We're going to do like a random token that's going to look like this, and that's going to get emailed to them for them to come back with that token. And then we're also going to say user.expires equals, and then we're going to give it some sort of date from now. So we're going to say whatever now is plus an hour. So they have an hour to come back to us with this token, and that will then allow them to reset their password. So that's the second thing. Third thing is we're going to send them an email with the token, right? Because you can't just give them the token right away here. You need to actually show them that they have access to that email account before they can reset the password. And then 4, finally, what we need to do is redirect to login page after the email token has been sent to them. Good. So first things first, we want to see if a user with that email exists. Well, we don't even have an email yet. So let's go back to index.js. We'll go down to the bottom here. And where are we posting this data to? We're posting it to /account/forgot. So say router.post /account/forgot. And when that happens, we're going to catch errors, and we're going to use the method that we're working on here, auth controller.forgot. Go here, and we'll see if there's even a user. So const user equals 08 user.find1. So we're going to find one. And what is the one piece of information we are able to find them on? Well, their email address, because that's what they're providing to us. We're going to say the email is request.body.email. Then at this point, we need to see if there is no user, if bang user, then we have to tell them that actually didn't work. So we'll say request.flash. That's an error. And the error is going to be no account with that email exists. So at this point, you may be screaming at me and being like, Wes, don't ever do that. So there is a possible security implementation here where somebody could possibly use this to see if they had a huge list of email addresses, they could see which people have signed up for this. Or if this was some sort of like private website where you should not be able to check if somebody has an account or not at that website, given that you know their email, then you shouldn't be able to do this. So at this point, what some people do, if you do not want to tell your user that no account with that email exists, you would tell them a username or a password reset has been mailed to you. Even though there actually is no user, you do want to tell the people like, hey, something was sent to you if an account actually exists behind that. So that's totally up to you, whether what type of website you're running. In this case, I don't mind telling my users that nothing exists with that email address. But that's totally up to you. And then we will return the response.redirect them. We want to redirect them back to the login page. Good. So if there is no user, then just tell them, hey, that didn't actually work. But if there was a user, that means right here, we will have a user. We are going to set our password token and our password expires so that they can have that information. So user.reset password token is equal to, now we need just a random bunch of keys in order for that to work. And there is actually something built right into Node.js, which will allow us to get cryptographically secure random strings. So that's a module that's built into Node. You don't have to npm install. It's called crypto. So we'll go to the top here and we'll import it. So const crypto equals require crypto. And then crypto itself has a method which will allow us to generate a random string. So say crypto dot random bytes 20 to string, and we ask for the hex. So that will put the token into the user, and we'll say user dot reset password expires. Because we don't want this to be good forever. We want it to only be allowed to reset it for 1 hour. So we'll say date.now, which is now, plus 3,600,000. And that is 1 hour from now. That will give them 1 hour to reset their actual password. Now that we have those new fields here, a couple things. First, I got a red underline here. User is not defined. Why? Because we never imported it into the top here. So let's quickly import Mongoose and then get the reference to our model. Good. So that sums up that one issue. Now I have another issue where these fields, reset password token and reset password token expires. Those are not fields on our schema, and we need to add them. So let's go to our user.js where we have our schema. And let's go down here and we're going to say add those two fields. So it was reset password token and reset password expires. And each of those, well, the first one, the token is going to be a string and the expires is going to be a date. So string and date. Good. So we'll be able to add those. Now that we've set those two fields on our user, we need to save them. So we await user.save. It's a nice little way to just wait until the user is actually saved. Then we need to send them an email with that token and redirect them to the login page. So what we can do right now is I'm just going to send them back the token immediately. Obviously, you'd never do that in real world, but next video, we're going to get into sending email. Right now, I just want to actually get the token working. So we will go here and we'll say const reset URL is equal to, and we'll make it HTTP. Now we need the URL of where we're operating, and that can be set on request.headers.host, and that will give us, in our case, localhost. But if you deploy that, it'll give you the domain name that you're running at. Very handy. /account /reset / the actual token, which is going to be ABC123. So we can pop the user.reset password token. All right, so we have this reset URL. Then what we can do at this point is just tell the user that it has worked. So we'll say request.flash success, and we'll do backfix. You have been emailed a password reset link. And then I'm actually going to put the password reset link right into here. Again, don't ever do this because that would allow someone to reset any URL, but just for the sake of simplicity, because we're not doing email just yet, we are going to email to them in just a second. And then we will say response.redirect. We want to redirect them to /login. Cool. So let's open up our MongoDB Compass. Let's refresh. You'll know here that I have a salt, a hash, an ID, an email, and a name. But if I try to reset my password and click send reset and give this a refresh, you'll see that I've now added a reset password, which is the date of when it will. It's right now it is 12:55. So at 1:55, it's going to expire. And then the token is 427C9999, whatever. And I'm able to get to this URL here. It should be a / account by grabbing it right from here. Again, this would be emailed to us. We're going to take that out before we deploy to live. Good. So that's the first part of it. Let's just double check that. If I put in like a no@no.com, let's see if that tells us it doesn't exist. Good. It tells us that account doesn't exist. But if I put in wesboss@gmail.com, it gives us this reset URL here. Good. So I'm actually going to go to this URL, and that will help us complete our next step, which is once somebody's got this special URL from their email, what's the process to then update their password? So I'm going to visit this URL here. It's going to 404, and we have to now create a route for that to help. We have to now create a route for that to happen. Go back to our routes and make a route to handle this /account, reset, and then the actual token that we have. So we'll go to index.js and we'll say router.get. Anytime someone visits /account, /reset, /any token, we are going to catch errors and use the auth controller.reset method that we have. Then we'll go back to our auth controller.js and make that reset method. We'll make it a sync as a request and a response. And then from that, we are going to take the token and check A, is there somebody with this token? And B, is this token not yet expired? So we can, let's just say response.json request.params, just so I can show you here that this token 63CF should show up as a token. Good. We can then search for the user, const user equals 08, user.find1. Want to find somebody where, and now this is the tricky part, where the reset password token is equal to the request.params.token. So somebody has to know that token in order to get to this URL, and that's because it's been emailed to them. And then also we want to find that the date is greater than now. So we'll say reset password expires is, and this is kind of a cool query that you can do in MongoDB, is you don't just set it to a value, you set it to an object where the key is greater than $GT, $GT, date.now. Wow, okay. So what that does is if we look back at our MongoDB Compass here, you'll see that we're going to look for a expires that is greater than right now. So we know that the token is still valid because it is in the future. And if it's been more than an hour, that token will have been in the past and we can't access it anymore. So there we have the user, and we can say if there is no user, so if that search right here didn't find someone, either because the token was wrong or because the expires was already expired, then we'll just tell them, we'll say response request.flash error, say password reset token is invalid or has expired. And then we'll redirect them. Cool. So let's actually try go to /ABC and hit enter. And redirect. Put a T on there. Let's go to this /ABC, which it should not work. And then it will just redirect us to the login page where we can try to do it again. Okay, so if there's no user, flash it, then redirect them to the login. However, if there is a user, show the reset password form, right? This is another form. First form to reset it, second form to actually take in the new username and password. So we'll say res.render. We're going to render out the reset file, and the title will be reset your password. Good. So let's go ahead and create that. We'll go into views and make a new file called reset.pug. We have a form with the class of form, and the method will be post. And in this case, I'm going to leave the action off. And if you don't know this about HTML forms, when you submit a form and it doesn't have an action, the action will default to the current URL that we are on. So it's just going to post to itself. It's going to post to the same URL that we are on. Then we'll have an H2 tag that says reset your password. And then we're going to ask for their new password and ask for them to confirm their new password. We'll have our submit button. The value will be reset password. So we only want to show this to them once they've hit that URL. I have lost my URL, so I'm going to send a new one to myself, wesboss@gmail.com, send the reset. This is my reset link. And if we try to visit that, hopefully it will render out this reset.pug file for us. There we go. So what it did real quick, if we look at our auth controller here, is it's actually looked for someone and then checked if there wasn't one. And if there was one, then we reached this. And the way you can tell that is you could just do console.log user and open up your terminal. I always like to clear out anything that's in here. And then watch, when I refresh this, it actually shows me because it found that token, and it also found that the reset password was well within that 1 hour time that we had. Good. So that's step 2, which is checking, figuring out where we have. And then the third part, which is probably the biggest part, is where we actually have to now update their password given what they have. So let's go back to our index.js and we'll say router.post /account/reset/token, right? Because what's going to happen is someone's going to fill this out with their new password, and we're going to click reset, and it's going to post the data to the exact same URL that we have there. So the same thing. First thing we want to do is check if their passwords are the same. So we're going to make a middleware. We'll write it now, and we'll make it in just a second. Auth controller dot confirmed passwords. And then when the passwords are the same, so making sure that they are exactly the same, we are going to finally update their actual password. So we will catch errors, because this will use async await, and we will call it auth controller.update. Right now, this is a little bit hairy. Let's put them on their own lines here. There we go. So when somebody posts to /account reset token, check that the passwords are the same. If they are, finally go ahead and update their passwords on the books. So go back to our auth controller, and we're going to make 2 here. One called confirm passwords, one called update. And that is simply going to be request response. And we're just going to do a little check ourselves here. So we could use some sort of validation middleware. Because this is so simple, we're simply checking if 2 of the things are the same. We're just going to do an if statement. If request.body.password equals request.body.password-confirm. Ooh, how do you do that? That's got a dash in it. You remember our reset, the name was password confirm. How do you access a property on an object when you have a dash? Well, you have to use square brackets. That's how you access a property when it has a dash in it. So if the password is equal to the confirm, then what do we do? Well, it's fine. Just next. Keep it going. So keep it going. And then we'll return from this function, stop it from running. Because next will pass us down our middleware, which will pass us to the update controller. Otherwise, if they aren't the same, what do we tell them? Request.flash. It's an error. We'll tell them passwords do not match. We'll redirect them back. Okay. Oh, and see how this is red here? It's telling us that next doesn't exist because we forgot to pass it right here. Now let's try that. If we go back and I try Wes and boss and reset the password, passwords do not match. And then they bring us back to this actual good. But what if they do match? Well, if they do match, then we go to the next step of our middleware, which is called update. Go down here, exports.update is equal to async request and response. Now, here it is. First things first, we first need to find the user and make sure that they are still within that 1 hour in the token. Why? Because someone could have loaded the page and then come back to it an hour later. Then it shouldn't work, right? Because you shouldn't have that security of just having somebody leave the page open. So we're going to find the user. We can take this find one from earlier, and we can just paste it right into here. So user equals await user.find one with the token. The token's still going to be in the URL, and then greater than now. Good. And then if there is no user, we can do the exact same thing again, which is we can copy paste this. You could even maybe refactor this out into a middleware that will work, so you don't have to copy and paste, but that's not a big deal. You can go either way. So if there's no user, tell them that it is invalid. Finally, if it is, then we want to go ahead and update the user's password. The method we're going to call is we're going to take the user and we're going to call a set password method on the user. And that is, again, that is made available to us because we're using that plugin in our user.js. However, one big downside here is that it is not promiseified. It is callbackified. So we want to make it into a promisify. So say const set password equals promisify. We're going to promisify user.setPassword, and we're going to bind it to the user. Good. Well, we don't have our promisify being pulled in yet. So again, we'll go back to the top of this file, say const promisify is equal to require es6-promisify. Good. We'll go down here. We made this new method called setPassword, which will allow us to await it. Await setPassword. We can pass it the new password, which is going to be request.body.password, right? That is going to set the new password, and then it will hash it and salt it and do all the stuff that it needs to do behind the scenes. However, we do need to get rid of the password expires and the token. And the way that you get rid of fields in MongoDB is you set them to undefined, and they will get taken out. So say user.resetPasswordToken is equal to undefined. And user.resetPasswordExpires is undefined as well. And then we need to update the user. So say const updated user is equal to, we'll await user.save, right? Because this doesn't actually do anything in the database. It just queues it up. And then when we actually call .save, that will run to the database and actually do the saving. So we are saving them, and then we want to automatically log them in. And what that will do is it will not just put them in the login form and tell them to re-log in. We'll just automatically log them in. So what we do here is we say await request.login. So again, request is our request, and there's a method on it called .login. You see how all of these nice little packages that we're using, like passport.js, will give us all of the methods that we need via the middleware that it introduces it in. And we'll take the updated user and pass it. So this is a neat little part of Passport.js. You can always pass it an actual user, and it will just automatically log that person in without us having to pass them a username or password. So finally, we can tell them it worked. So we'll flash them. Success. Let's do a little dance emoji. Say, nice. Your password has been reset. Or redirect them to the home page. All right, so given all that, let's go to this URL again, our reset URL. Let's try change our passwords. Click on reset password. And there we go, it worked. What did it do? It automatically updated my password, and then it flashed us saying it worked. It should be a lowercase s, that's why it's not green. And then it will automatically log us in as well. So that is our whole password reset flow. There's a whole bunch to it because we first need to find if the user exists and then set a token, and then send them an email, and then actually render out the reset form. And then when they reset the form, we want to confirm that their passwords are the same. And then finally, we want to put the data on their new database and redirect them to the homepage. And if we go back to this and I click on refresh, you'll notice that the salt and the hash has changed, as well as that those tokens and those dates are now cleaned up because we set them to undefined. They get deleted from our actual database. So take a second and make sure you really understand like what's going on here and what are all the pieces, because there is a lot of moving parts going on here. And once you feel comfortable with that, move on to the next video, which is we're going to be learning how to send that URL via email.